guys, welcome to my channel. It's another week and today I'm going to be talking about my first job experience abroad, mistakes, some of the mistakes that I made, and this will probably be like an advice to anyone who is getting their first time experience. So congratulations on your first job abroad. Training, Ireland. So congratulations on your first international job. Welcome, you have arrived. I hope you're prepared for this next stage of your life. I just completed my own first year working here and I am actually surprised that I made it through without doing anything drastic. I had my own share of working in Nigeria for about 4 years before I came down here, so I had a whole different idea of what exactly it was going to be like. Working abroad is a great way to travel. It exposes your mind to a whole new set of professional behaviors, cultural differences, and social lifestyle. So let us enjoy this topic together. If you're like me and you are a Christian and really passionate about your religion, one thing that might be in your mind when you're traveling abroad to work or when you walk into your new office is to go in there and convert everybody in that office to your own religion, which is a beautiful thing. But I would advise you, set aside all your religious beliefs. You should realize that you've been employed to add value to that office. Set aside your personal beliefs, set aside your religious beliefs. Do not mix it up. Separate them from work activities. Do not mix them up. If you have to go pray, do that within the designated time when it is either your tea or your lunch break. Try to realize that one way you can draw people closer to you is by acting positive all the time, being very loving and compassionate in your workplace. People probably get to relate more with you than when you're trying to shove your religion down their throat. Understand that it is a work environment and you should respect people's personal beliefs, whatever it is they believe in. I mean, it was hard for me when I came into my own office, and sometimes I'm having conversations with some of my colleagues, and then I switch into my spiritual side, and then somebody probably now goes, I don't believe in God, I believe in science, I don't believe God created the world, I believe the world was evolved from science. I mean, like, confusion would just fill up my head, and I'm like, Jesus, where do I start from now? Your life might be the only Bible that these people get to read, so make sure that it is worthwhile. You live a life that is very compassionate and loving, and that way you draw people closer to you than when you go around trying to shove your religious beliefs down their throat. I do not think that is the right way to present yourself in a new workplace. Now I'm going to be addressing foreigners. I mean, you're traveling to a new country where you're not one of the natives of that country. It's only normal that you're going to be thinking of yourself as a victim of racism of some kind. Try as much as possible to avoid that thought. Do not think small of yourself. You have decided to go to a new country. Will you be discriminated? Maybe yes or no. Will you not be offered opportunities like some of your colleagues who are natives of the country? That's also a possibility. And even if you are assigned roles that you feel are beneath you, it is critical that you do not express this to your colleagues or to your co-workers. Keep it to yourself. So accept the things that you can't change and change the things that you can accept. You may never be able to control some circumstances, but you can control the way you respond to people and your actions to them. Focus on what you can do to perform excellently and accept this job as an opportunity to learn more about your industry. I mean, you might decide to become a CEO in the nearest future when you decide to go back to your country. I am not a social butterfly, but one thing I realized after I started working was it was difficult for me to communicate properly with my co-workers. It was really hard for me to get to that point where I could understand what they were talking about. But one reason that this was happening to me was because I wasn't mixing up with them after work hours. I used to be too busy to go out with them, hang out with my co-workers. But you realize, like, the more you do it, the more you get to understand them on a more personal note or on a social note. Not just talking about work all the time. I mean, like, it's so amazing how we can spend the entire day, even during lunch, talking about work. Sometimes I'm like, can we take a break? Because in Nigeria, I wasn't used to this. I mean, like, when I was back home during lunch hours, if I need to sit down with a friend, they were probably talking about, like, okay, so what happened last night? Where did you go to? That kind of thing. But here, we're talking about cases all the time, and it can actually get overbearing. You don't have to be BFFs with everybody in the office, but you realize that spending out of work hours with them will help you get kind of comfortable with them to an extent, and do not get too comfortable that you start sharing your personal gist with everybody in the office. Try to keep it as try to keep it as professional as possible, because you realize the more you get to talk, the more you become a loudmouth, and nobody really wants to be associated with somebody like that. I mean, if you want to rant, then you can come right ahead on here on YouTube, and we're here to listen to you. One challenge I faced in my first job was timidity. I mean, it was my first job, so it was only normal. It was nerve-wracking. Something that contributed to this was my cultural difference. I didn't come from a culture that allowed me to speak up at some certain times, so I found myself dealing with timidity. And then also one other thing that contributed to this was the fact that sometimes I come into the office as a gritty person, and I'm all gritty and all smiles, and some people will probably not respond back and give me the same vibes that I'm giving out to them. Like, you probably greet someone like, ah, person goes. Asking questions was also another challenge that I found myself dealing with when I came here, because I had a mindset of, I know it all, why should I ask questions? And if I have to ask questions, my questions have to sound very intelligent. But then I got to learn that it's better you try to avoid making those mistakes than making those mistakes without asking questions, and eventually you have to face your superiors to answer those questions. It's only normal that this is your first job and you feel intimidated, but you've been hired for a certain reason. Somebody saw some skill that they could develop in you. So try to go out there, and you realize the more questions you ask, the more you learn. Do not start your first job with an air of arrogance. We know you're fresh from school. We know your brain is still as hot as bread that was just being baked. But do not come into the office with that sense of arrogance, like, I want to show myself off, I want to show what exactly I learned in my own country to bring in here. Let them not think that I am a dummy. Just humble yourself as much as possible to learn from your superiors and your co-workers. I mean, they were there before you. When I initially came here, sometimes I say some things and someone goes like, you're being bold, and I'm like, which one is bold again? Eventually I realized this is a totally different culture. I had to tone down on the way my voice used to sound, because sometimes too, you open your mouth and you say some things and someone goes like, you're sounding aggressive. I'm just talking in the normal way. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed bringing this topic to you. I hope you enjoyed listening to me. If you have any questions, please leave them in my comment section below, and I'll be happy to interact with you guys. And if you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave thumbs up to the video and you subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye.